How many times did you reply the second your phone lit up? How many times did you stop whatever you were doing just to be there? How many nights did you stay awake because someone else needed to talk? And how many times did you stare at the screen, waiting for a message that never came? Be honest. How often are you available? And how rarely are you actually chosen? You answer fast. You show up. You give your energy without being asked. And still, no one really calls you. They text when it's convenient. They reach out when they're bored. They knock only when every other door is closed. And you open. Every time. You tell yourself it's loyalty. You tell yourself it's kindness. You tell yourself you're just that kind of person. But deep down, you feel it. That quiet weight in your chest. That moment when the conversation ends and nothing replaces it. Because here's the part that hurts. You weren't ignored. You weren't forgotten. You weren't unlucky. You were never truly called. Because you were always already there. Think about it. When something is always available, do we treat it as a priority, or do we treat it like background noise? When a door is always open, do people knock, or do they wander in without thinking? You made access easy. You made your energy cheap. And without realizing it, you trained people how to treat you. Not with cruelty, not with bad intentions, just with patterns. Patterns you helped create. You answered every time, so they never had to choose you. You waited, so they never had to pursue. You stayed, so they never had to worry about losing you. And slowly, something shifted. Your presence stopped feeling special. Your absence stopped feeling possible. Your dignity started dissolving into an illusion of connection. You weren't standing on solid ground anymore. You were standing on crumbs. Tiny signs, half replies, delayed responses you learned to excuse, moments you stretched into meaning because you needed them to matter. And you called that hope. But hope built on crumbs doesn't feed you. It just keeps you hungry. Ask yourself this. When was the last time someone made space for you? Not squeezed you in, not replied eventually, actually made room. When was the last time someone chose you without needing you first? Silence answers that question faster than people do. And here's the truth most people don't want to face. People protect what they value. They prioritize what matters. They invest energy where they feel risk. If someone never risks losing you, it's because losing you never felt real. That's not an attack. It's a mirror. You didn't lose your worth. You buried it under availability. You confused being needed with being valued. You confused attention with connection. You confused consistency with choice. And the illusion held until the loneliness started getting louder than the messages. This is the moment where most people turn outward. They blame timing. They blame distance. They blame other people's flaws. But sit with it, just for a second. What if the problem isn't that no one calls, but that you keep answering? What if the role you're playing feels familiar, but it's quietly costing you your dignity? Because the more you give your energy without being chosen, the more invisible you become. Not to the world, to yourself. And that's the part no one warns you about. So before we talk about what to do next, before we talk about stepping back or letting go, there's one question you need to face honestly. Why did you accept this role in the first place, without even realizing you chose it? And the hardest part is this. Nothing about this makes you weak. It just means you've been stuck.
stuck in a role you slowly grew into, a role that felt natural, a role that felt right. You're always online, but rarely remembered. Always available, but rarely chosen. Always listening, but almost never truly heard. No one forced you. No one demanded it, and yet you stayed. You stayed when the replies got shorter. You stayed when the energy shifted. You stayed when effort became one-sided and silence became normal. Not because you're desperate, not because you lack self-respect, but because somewhere along the way you took on an emotional responsibility no one officially gave you. You became the safe place, the late-night responder, the one who's understands, the one who's always there. And at first, it feels meaningful. It feels like purpose. It feels like connection. Until it starts to feel heavy, like carrying a stone only you can see. No one acknowledges it. No one asks you to put it down, but it's always there, pressing into your chest. You tell yourself you're fine. You tell yourself this is just how relationships work. You tell yourself patience is a virtue. And maybe that's true. But patience without reciprocity slowly turns into self-erasure. You wait without being promised anything. You show up without being invited. You give energy without being met halfway. And over time, that quiet exhaustion settles in. You don't complain. You don't confront. You just carry it. Because admitting it hurts would mean admitting something deeper. That you might not be a priority, that you might not be chosen the way you hoped. So instead, you normalize the pain. You say, this is just how it is. You say, at least I'm there for people. You say, someone has to care. And maybe you're right, but caring shouldn't cost you your dignity. And this is where things start to get uncomfortable. Because the truth isn't hidden, it's just ignored. In life, words are cheap, intentions are flexible, explanations can stretch forever, but actions don't lie. People make time for what they choose, they protect what they value, they create space for what matters. If someone needs you, they find you. If someone wants you, they make room. If someone prioritizes you, you feel it without having to decode it. So ask yourself honestly, how often are you explaining someone's absence? How often are you translating silence into meaning? How often are you defending behavior that leaves you empty? They're just busy. They're not good at expressing themselves. They care in their own way.
Maybe. Or maybe those explanations are just more crumbs. Crumbs you've learned to survive on. Stoic thinking is simple, but it's not gentle. It doesn't comfort illusions. It doesn't decorate reality. It asks one question: what is actually happening? Not what you hope is happening, not what you imagine might be happening. What is happening? And what's happening is this. If someone consistently has access to your energy without choosing you, then access has replaced intention. You've removed the need for effort. You've removed the risk of loss. And without risk, priority fades. This isn't about blaming them. It's about seeing the pattern clearly. You taught people how available you are. You showed them that your door is always open. You proved that no matter how little they give, you'll still stay. So why would they knock? And that's where the cycle begins. You reach out, you get little back, and suddenly doubt creeps in. Did I say something wrong? Did I come on too strong? Am I not interesting enough? So you adjust, you give more, you become more patient, more understanding, more flexible. You lower your expectations, you raise your effort.
and the imbalance grows. Less response leads to more self-questioning. More self-questioning leads to more trying. More trying leads to less respect. Not because they're cruel, but because presence without boundaries loses weight. Your energy becomes predictable. Your availability becomes assumed. Your absence becomes unimaginable. And when something can't be lost, it stops being protected. This is the part that stings. You think you're doing the right thing. You think you're being loyal. You think love means enduring. But what you're really doing is slowly negotiating against yourself. Each unanswered message chips away at your dignity. Each excuse you make erodes your self-trust. Each time you wait quietly, your presence loses value. Until one day, you notice it. You don't feel chosen, you feel tolerated. You don't feel wanted, you feel useful. And usefulness is not connection, it's convenience. So ask yourself the question you've been avoiding. Are you waiting to be called, or are you keeping yourself permanently on standby? Because those are not the same thing. One is hope, the other is self-abandonment. And this is where the illusion fully reveals itself. Real connection doesn't need constant analysis. You don't have to read between lines. You don't have to replay conversations in your head. Real connection is clear, it's felt, it's steady. Illusion, on the other hand, demands interpretation. You scan messages for tone, you count response times, you magnify small gestures into proof. A short reply becomes a sign, a delayed text becomes a test, a brief check-in becomes hope. And you cling to it, because crumbs feel better than nothing, until you realize they're keeping you hungry. You call it care, but often it's just convenience. They reach out when it suits them, they disappear when it doesn't, and you're left filling in the blanks, telling yourself stories that keep you attached. But here's the line you can't cross without seeing everything differently. If you have to continuously prove your existence, you are not being chosen. Chosen people are not invisible. Chosen people are not optional. Chosen people are not waiting in silence. And this realization hurts deeply, because it means the pain wasn't random, it was structured. Built slowly, maintained quietly, protected by your own hope. This is the lowest point, the moment where the illusion finally cracks, and it leaves one question hanging in the air. If this isn't real connection, then what happens when you stop carrying the stone? That's where the door finally opens. And this is where everything changes. Not with confrontation, not with explanations, not with one last message hoping they finally see you. It changes with silence. And before your mind resists that idea, listen closely. Stopping your response is not punishment. It's not manipulation. It's not a game. It's the restoration of natural order. Because when you've been carrying the stone for so long, putting it down feels radical, almost wrong. You've been taught that being available equals being good, that staying reachable equals being loving, that endurance equals dignity. But dignity is not endless access. Ask yourself this: if your presence is guaranteed, what incentive is there to choose you? If your energy is always available, why would anyone protect it? If the door is always open, why would anyone knock? This is not about making them feel your absence. It's about finally feeling your own. Because something strange happens the moment you stop reaching. The noise fades, the mental rehearsals stop, the constant checking loosens its grip,
At first, it's uncomfortable. Your fingers itch. Your thoughts race. Did they notice? Should I say something? Am I being unfair? That's not love speaking. That's conditioning. You've trained yourself to believe that your value lives in your response time, that your importance is measured by how quickly you show up, that silence equals loss. But silence is only dangerous when the connection was real. When you stop responding, two paths reveal themselves. On one path, someone notices, they reach out, they adjust, they make space, not because you forced them, but because they choose to. On the other path, nothing happens. No follow-up, no curiosity, no concern. And as painful as that realization can be, it carries clarity. Because what disappears when you withdraw your energy was never anchored to you in the first place. It was anchored to your availability. You weren't being chosen, you were being accessed, and there's a difference that changes everything. This is why silence works without effort. It doesn't argue, it doesn't accuse, it doesn't beg. It simply removes the illusion. When you were always there, the dynamic was hidden. Your effort covered the imbalance. Your patience filled the gaps. But when you step back, reality has no choice but to show itself. And this is the hardest truth to accept. You don't lose people by setting boundaries. You lose illusions. You don't lose connection. You lose dependency. You don't lose love.
You lose convenience. And yes, that can hurt. Because part of you hoped that all your waiting meant something. That all your energy was building towards something real. That all your silence would eventually be rewarded. But Stoic wisdom doesn't soften reality to protect feelings. It sharpens perception to protect dignity. You were never meant to chase clarity. Clarity comes from observation, and observation requires distance. So you step back, not loudly, not dramatically, no announcement, no explanation, no long goodbye. You don't owe closure to an illusion. You simply stop filling the space that was never held for you. And slowly, something unexpected happens. Your energy returns to you. Your mind becomes quieter. Your self-respect stops leaking out in small compromises. You sleep better. You think clearer. You stop rehearsing conversations that never happen. The stone is still there, but it's no longer crushing you. And here's the part no one tells you. Silence doesn't make you invisible. It makes you visible to yourself. You begin to notice how much you were bending, how much you were shrinking, how much dignity you traded for crumbs. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. You realize that being chosen never feels confusing. It never feels anxious. It never requires you to betray yourself. Chosen energy is calm. It's mutual. It's steady. It doesn't demand proof. It doesn't punish silence. It doesn't disappear when you stop performing. So if someone fades the moment you stop chasing, they didn't lose interest. They lost access. And access is not intimacy. This is why withdrawal is not weakness, it's self-alignment. You're no longer offering your energy to those who don't protect it. You're no longer knocking on doors that stay closed. You're no longer eating crumbs and calling it a meal. You are reclaiming priority, not by demanding it, but by embodying it. Because when you choose yourself, you stop asking others to choose you incorrectly. And that's the quiet power in this shift. You don't need revenge.
You don't need validation. You don't need an apology. You need alignment. And alignment feels like peace. It feels like walking away without resentment. It feels like letting go without bitterness. It feels like understanding that nothing real was lost, only the illusion. And once the illusion is gone, you can finally ask the right question. Not, why didn't they choose me? But, why did I keep choosing less than I deserved? That question doesn't hurt forever. It heals. Because the moment you stop answering everyone, you make space for someone who actually calls. And if that someone doesn't appear right away, you don't panic. Because for the first time, you're not waiting. You are standing. And that changes what comes next.
And now you get to choose. Not them, not the timing, not the version of you that keeps hoping. You. You choose what silence means. You choose where your energy goes. You choose what you call priority. Because silence is not absence. Silence is intention. Being quiet on purpose is stronger than being present by default. Being alone is lighter than feeling lonely inside empty connections. You don't need to disappear to be valued. You need to stop being endlessly accessible. Ask yourself, honestly, who actually looks for you when you're not there? Who makes room, not excuses? Who protects your energy instead of consuming it? Those are the ones who choose you. And if, right now, no one fits that answer, then this is the most important choice of all. Choose yourself. Choose your dignity over crumbs. Choose your peace over constant availability. Choose to close the door that never truly opened for you. This isn't bitterness, it's clarity. You're not withdrawing to punish anyone. You're stepping back to stop abandoning yourself. You're not playing hard to get. You're becoming hard to misuse. Because once you stop answering everything, you start hearing yourself again. Your thoughts slow down. Your body relaxes. Your worth stops being negotiated in silence. You realize something simple, something steady. You were never asking for too much. You were asking the wrong people. Real connection doesn't feel like analysis. It doesn't feel like guessing. It doesn't feel like waiting. It feels chosen. It feels mutual. It feels calm. And calm is the signal you ignored when chaos felt familiar. So let this be your line. From now on, you don't chase priority. You embody it. From now on, you don't offer unlimited access. You offer presence to those who show up. From now on, you don't explain your silence. You respect it. If someone only notices you when you pull away, they didn't miss you. They missed the convenience. And you don't need to prove your value to someone who only sees your energy, not your essence. You are not a backup plan. You are not emotional support on demand. You are not the open door everyone walks past. You are the door that closes softly and only opens with intention. So choose carefully. Choose people who choose you without reminders. Choose conversations that don't drain you. Choose connections that don't make you doubt your place. And if this reached you today, it's probably because somewhere out there, someone you know is still living as the one who always replies. Share it for them. Not for the algorithm, not for attention, but because no one deserves to live as an afterthought in their own life. You don't need to announce this shift. You don't need permission. Just choose. Choose dignity over illusion. Choose peace over noise. Choose yourself. And walk forward quietly. That's where your power is now.